Hey everybody, JD here. It is April 10th. Hope you're doing well out there. Episode number 3 of the show. And this week we have James Stone, president of the NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association, on with us tonight. And he's going to give us all kinds of info on the new salmon seasons that just came out. He's on the PFMC, so he knows all about that. We've got that whole meeting yesterday. If you haven't heard, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife had kind of a situation where they had some technical issues, and then a bunch of folks got a little riley and or got kind of unruly, and so that was interesting. And that was the meeting, of course, talking about potentially closing some of the waters in the state of California. Well, James was on the phone with the director last night, so he will have more on that. And what else? We'll just kind of get into it. If you guys have any questions about, again, ocean salmon season is set. The river forecasts, we'll be talking about those for king season. It looks pretty good. So any of that is fair game. If you want to ask us any questions about any of that stuff, that's fine. Down on your little, wherever it is on your screen, there's a little thing to comment. And I've got my comment thing up here now so I can see it. And the other thing I was going to tell you about is I actually got out fishing this week, which was pretty cool. Everything up here at Tahoe, the boat ramps are still all closed, and it's hard to get out on the water. But I kind of found a way. Let me give you a little hint here how I did that. It was kind of silly, but it was fun. Let's see if I can make this work. There we go. Press play. There we go. So I went out on Tahoe. Again, the ramps were closed, so I got into my little 8-foot Dave Skadden pontoon boat. It was snowing. And got out and trolled. Stayed pretty close to shore, of course, because you don't want to be too far out there in a 8-foot boat. But trolled around, trolled stick bait, and look at that. Got a little cutthroat, which is cool because they planted those cutthroats in Tahoe last fall. Around October, I think. And it's good to see that some of them are making it. We'll see how they do. If they get to pyramid size, which this one obviously isn't. But look, he's healthy looking. He's skinny. It's wintertime, but he's got all the fins and he's looking pretty good. And so it'll be interesting to see how that fishery progresses. And I've caught a few of those lately. And then I caught another fish. And I can only sit in that boat for about an hour before my back starts hurting. So I caught a little brown there. And it was pretty fun time. So looks like it was freezing cold. My neighbor said, "Man, you are absolutely nuts to be out there fishing." And I said, I'm going to go nuts if I'm not out there fishing. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. I also yesterday morning, in a rainy, snowy kind of deal, went out to lake over here, drug my boat because the roads were still closed. And I drug my little pontoon boat, I guess raft, whatever you want to call it. I drug it. My little Fitbit thing on my phone said it was 1.7 miles round trip towing this boat across the snow. Got into the lake. First one on the lake in the whole year. And I trolled down the lake all the way and against the wind all the way back. And I caught that much. So, but anyway, it was cool getting out of the house. And hopefully you guys are getting out a little bit too. I know it's getting tougher and tougher. So with that in mind, let's bring in my guest here, James Stone, president of NorCal Guides Association. How you doing, James? I know you've been busy as always.
Yeah, what's going on? I'm excited to be on the computer, considering I've been on the computer for about 8 days, 12 hours a day. So
yeah, I know. James just got done with 8 days of he's on the Pacific Fisheries Management Council, and they were setting ocean salmon seasons. And of course, because we couldn't do it, or you couldn't do it in person, you guys had to do it at home on video chat. And
right,
what was it, 12 hours a day sitting in front of a computer?
Pretty much. We've been doing webinars. It actually went really well, considering that you've got a few hundred people that are on the groundfish advisory subpanel. I'm on the salmon advisory subpanel, and there's all these SAS, the SAS, and there's I'm a California sport representative representing all the recreational anglers, and along with Jimmy Yarnell, John Atkinson, and then the commercial troll is John Keppen. And the four of us represent the state of California and work on your seasons and structure the seasons accordingly to try to make it best for all. And normally we always get together and spend 7 to 9 days together, at a hotel and do dinners and everything else. And this year it was way different. We had to do the webinar. And so,
yeah. Did you find that it was harder to kind of broker those deals that you're always kind of doing without being able to just kind of go over to the table where the commercial guys are, or the sport guys or whatever? And
right.
It's got to be a little more kind of sterile or funky, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because, we actually commented on that today when we were all saying goodbye to each other in the California breakout room. It's a public process. If you've never been engaged, I really encourage anyone to join because you can always listen in and see what we're talking about and how we're discussing it. But that was something that a lot of people brought up today, JD, was, it's kind of weird because when you know somebody, you can see their body language and you can see their mannerisms and are they smiling or are they frowning so those relationships that a lot of people have created, this is my second full year completing. So, I'm still newer to the process, but I would say that I'm very trusted among a lot of the people. And I do help work heavily with the other members to, broker deals and do what's best for California and all fishermen and across the West Coast.
That's awesome. And we'll get into some of that because I know people are going to want to hear about the ocean salmon seasons and the river forecast, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But when you guys left, did y'all do like the prison phone call thing, like touch the glass? Bye.
Right. We did the high two, right? Yeah, I think that everyone it's elbows now due to COVID-19. So that was kind of the joke in March at the PFMC show. It was like, are we still shaking hands? California, Oregon, Washington was kind of the lingo because that was when Seattle was breaking out with all those cases.
Right.
And now it's obviously we're all quarantined at home and stay at home, shelter in place. So.
Yeah, and folks, I've called James quite a bit this week, and while he was on PFMC, you could hear it in the background. And then he's got two. What are the boys? How old are they?
My boys are 5.5 and 2.5 or 2. So, and I'm homeschooling at the same time. So it's been a challenge.
There's the quote of the week. You probably don't even remember because it was just chaos for you all week. But I remember hearing you go, "Hey, is he all right? Is he bleeding?" and then you're like, "I gotta go." The last thing you said was, "And that's why you don't feed the dog a Cheez-It."
Yeah, I remember that now that you say that. I'm getting flashbacks. But being hey, all credit to stay-at-home parents, man. Thumbs up. I mean, 100%. I mean, holy moly. And teachers, I have found a new respect for. I've always respected them, but I mean, I have got a new dynamic approach. So
absolutely. I mean, single moms and dads. There's a reason you need a mom and dad at the house,
Really is, I mean, a lot of us that are older, we used to see a parent stay home, and now due to economical reasons, both parents have to work, and both me and my wife work. And, it's hard when, then something like this happens.
Well, and speaking of that, how's Sonia real quick? She feeling better? Because she's a healthcare worker, and she's been right on the front lines. Bless her heart.
Yeah. Thank you. She's doing well. I appreciate that. She's doing well. She's working hard. She's a family nurse practitioner. She's engaged, and my sister-in-law's charge of the emergency room here locally. And so, they're both as healthcare workers right on the front line of this and seeing all of the stuff that's going on, and they're trying to be as safe as possible. And, thank you to all the healthcare workers that are out there right now, because I couldn't do it.
Yeah, true heroes. So, okay, so everybody's been, my phone's been blowing up, your phone's been blowing up, Facebook's everybody's going crazy. The Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Fish and Game Commission met yesterday with an emergency meeting, virtual meeting online. And It was turned out to be quite a cluster fugazi, let's say. Part of it was due to just technical errors and technical difficulties, which, you get that many people calling in, 600 and some odd people. So many people called, if I'm not mistaken, that some of the commissioners couldn't even get on. So it was a crazy show. And then we had some folks that, let's just say, didn't represent the angling community very well with their actions. And so the meeting lasted, 13 minutes?
Yeah, I think I think it was something like that. I signed on at about 8:12, and I was the 154th caller, and by 8:26, it was completely full with 662 participants, with hundreds still trying to come through. Right. I had 28 text messages from people saying, I can't get in, and we could hear them saying the commissioners couldn't get in themselves. They were short to even make a quorum to even have a meeting. So.
Oh, wow. So the point of this meeting was to discuss potential closures of fishing in the state. Right now, Washington, I just got done talking to my buddy up in Washington State. They have no recreational fishing whatsoever right now. I mean, period. And then they're also at the border, they're saying, Oregonians can't come, or Washingtonians can't come down to Oregon to go fishing because they can't. And so they're a lot of people here, and I understand it. We're freaking out about a potential closure in California. And one of the things that was really of concern, I know the department was looking at, and I don't believe that they had any interest in fully closing anything. I mean, they're in the business of selling fishing licenses and making people happy by getting out and doing, recreating. So I don't think, at least in my heart of hearts, I don't think they wanted to close everything. And you can speak to that because you talked to the director last night. But I understand there were some situations that needed addressing, like the trout opener down in, April, whatever the date is, the last Saturday in April, general trout season always opens. And they were concerned with tens of thousands of people rolling into from LA and that kind of, down like in Mammoth Lake, south of me. Trout season is a big deal, opening weekend, and tens of thousands of people roll in, and you got tens of thousands of people coming from Los Angeles and Southern California, and those little communities just don't want that, even though that's their bread and butter right now. I mean, it's hard for them to turn that away, but they said, hey, we're going to get out of this sooner if you guys don't come. So I think that was one of the big concerns with the department.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. I mean, 100%, it really says something when a conservative county who probably makes, upwards of 50+% of their revenue on a few months of fishing and tourism into their county are saying, please shut it down. Please don't let people come into our county. Please just leave them where they be. That really goes to show you that they must have been really scared and nervous about what could have transpired. Inyo County and Mono County wrote letters from their board of supervisors to the director, Chuck Bonham, and also to the commission, asking them to delay the trout opener on April 25th and to shut down recreational fishing. So that's what led to the start of this whole thing, as you alluded to. And, with that happening, the commission said, we don't have time to get together, to have stakeholders get involved and wait for public comment and do the whole public process according to law.
Right.
And I think it's the Bagley-King Act. And in order to do that whole process, in order to delay a season through the commission like you were supposed to. So the only other way to do this was to do an emergency action under a pandemic. So it's a special circumstance to where the commission could vote unanimously to transfer authority to the director of Fish and Wildlife in order to make decisions locally, regionally, or statewide if necessary to close recreational fishing. And I think that people didn't listen to anything except close
the fishing,
recreational fishing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so,
yeah, understandably so. I mean,
Sure.
you got to read the fine print and kind of and listen to everything. But I understand, these guys that got a little unruly at the meeting yesterday. I mean, I understand because we all don't. I mean, we're sitting around doing nothing. Well, you're not, but a lot of us are, and you're still working for the organization, luckily. But those of us who have been, I guess I've been furloughed sort of from guiding.
Right.
This, as you know, and you should be doing double right now. You should be guiding stripers and doing organization. So
today's supposed to be my last day for the organization, and I'm supposed to be starting Elite Sportsman Guide Service tomorrow. So I'm supposed to be fishing starting tomorrow, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts, and so when people are thinking. And throw guiding aside, just the general public are thinking, okay, I'm stuck at home and I can't go freaking fishing. You're killing me. And so I understand the sentiment there, the people freaking out about it. But so back to the meeting, the meeting didn't get anywhere. And so last night you talked to Director Bonham, and what was the kind of the feeling there? What did he have to say?
Yeah, I mean, getting back to the meeting first, I think that it was basically, when the 662 people got on, by the time they got to the 8:30 start time, they were telling people to mute their phones. It was simple. Mute your phones, please, everybody. Mute your phones. And people weren't muting their phones, and they started talking. Can we ask questions? And they're like, please just mute your phones. Well, you shouldn't shut down our fishery, and blah, 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 and beep, 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 and that's how it started. And then it was President Eric Sklar got on and said, if you guys don't stop, if you don't mute your phones and respect the process, then we're going to have to cancel the meeting. And he came on and said, we're trying to get people on, but you guys need to press *6 and mute your phones. Problem was with WebEx, which is what the commission used, when you press *6, half the people got unmuted and the other people got muted. So I was watching the screen on the right-hand side, and it was like sitting right here, and it was like half of the people mute, and then it would go back forth, and it was flopping, and I was like, this isn't good. And for those of us that are used to it, we just go right on our phone and we just press on our phone mute. And you're good. And you and I do conference calls, so we're used to it, but a lot of people had no clue what they were doing, and a lot of people called landlines, and
oh boy,
it was bad, and there was some very bad vulgar and profanity, and just a lot of, we don't need to go into it, but there was just a lot of remarks that shouldn't have been ever said. And I think one of the things reflecting on it now after a day is, we don't even know if those people were fishermen and women, and that's something that we never really even thought of, the anonymity of, being anonymous and just having caller number 1, caller number 85, caller number 656. Right. I put my name on there so that they knew who I was, but people could just say and do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah, it's the keyboard warrior mentality kind of thing.
Sure. You don't know who those people were. And so it went bad. Many of you have heard the footage that the SAC-B recorded and Ryan put out. It basically puts egg on the fisherman's face. It made us all look bad. And unfortunately, if we don't, be respectful of the public process,
we're not going to be included.
Yeah, we're not going to be included. That's right. And they'll make decisions. The governor can just paint with a broad brush and say closed.
Yeah.
And then what are you all going to do? Yeah. So, and most of those people, 98% of people are great.
Of course.
But it's just the bad apples that make us all look bad. So, the public process is there for a reason. Eric Sklar would have given all of us a chance to speak and to talk and to understand what was going on. But I think people are, like you said, they're stuck in their houses. They're angry. They have anxiety. They're broke.
Yep.
You're
going to take fishing away from me now? Come on.
Right.
Right. So, So your was your the content of your discussion with the director, is that something you can share here, or parts of it?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much we were invited to a call, and I'm not going to really explain the contents of the call, but the basis of it was just that the leaders of the industry across California were invited to basically have a discussion with ways that we can help communicate with everyone, with the whole entire angling and fishing community better. And so we're going to try to do that. And my discussion was that we went live on NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association. We did an hour and 12-minute broadcast where I don't know why, but 400 to 500 people wanted to watch my face talk about things at a kitchen table. So, I mean, bless you all for listening. But I was very happy that people were willing to ask questions. And it's like this: it gives you a great format and a platform to engage with the community when they're at home. And so we tried to spread correct, true information. But as everyone knows, this is such a fluid situation that's changing constantly. And so what we say tonight could change easily tomorrow. So make sure you're engaged and you're following our Facebook page, NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association, and we're going to continually update you throughout this process.
Yeah, absolutely. And so was kind of the gist. I know you can't go into all the details, but I have this feeling that they don't have any interest in shutting everything down if they don't have to. And was that kind of what Chuck mentioned, something along those lines?
I can tell you that there is absolutely zero interest to shut down fishing statewide. Absolutely zero. Right. That is the last thing they want to do. Believe me, They don't want people upset. They don't want to even shut it down, not because they don't want you upset. They don't want people to be stuck in their homes.
Crazy.
All of them are stuck in their homes too. So they really want you to recreate and go fishing. They truly do, a lot of them. So I would say that the goal is to try to help educate each other, spread the message of fishing is a great escape. It's a great source for your family to go and enjoy themselves. But we have to do it responsibly during these times of pandemic. Because if we don't, that's when you are looking at a possibility of your county saying, okay, enough's enough.
Right.
And I mean, if you want to talk about what's happening here in our county, I can, go into that. But I mean, our county has taken it to the next level, which a lot of others haven't. And, if we don't follow this social distancing, we don't follow the rules of our public health safety officers, believe it or not, the public health safety officers of your county have more jurisdiction and more, clout or power than law enforcement right now. They can set the health and safety code to the pandemic that the sheriff of your county has to enforce. So try to really practice social distancing if you're out there and, follow your county guidelines, because otherwise you could be looking at more closures.
Right. And I think that's the confusing part, is that it's not just, they're not painting it with just a broad brush. I mean, it's down to counties. And so that's where, people are getting all kinds of misinformation. And I think, the thing that I'm following is, and I think this is probably the best way to go about it, only go fishing with people that live under your same roof. So we can clear this.
Yeah, that's exactly right, JD. That is exactly what Sutter and Yuba County public health officer came out with. You're legally allowed to fish alone. You can fish with family members that live at your address.
Right.
Period. That's it.
Yeah.
So you want to fish with your son or daughter who has already moved on and they're 22? Sorry, you can't. Okay. And people are upset about that, and understandably so. However, they live at a different address. You're not supposed to be visiting people from different addresses. So, it's one of those things that, those are the two things you can do: fish alone, fish with family members from your address. and that's it, and a lot of people are saying, well, I've got a bedroom for rent. Who wants to live in my house for the next 60 days? But, those are the two things. In Yuba and Sutter County, there's been a directive of all guides and charter boats must have ceased business on April 6th. And although the governor had already shut that down as non-essential businesses on March 16th, but she had made it clear that she's directing the local sheriff to enforce, those guidelines in outdoor recreation. And she's gone stricter in other things, playgrounds, basketball courts, all those things are shut down. And today or yesterday, they came out with all county personnel and everyone else must be wearing face masks at all times in the county, and recommended by everyone. I had to go into town to get a few essential items today for the family, and I had to go do shopping for great grandma who's 88 who can't go into town. And a lot of people are wearing masks and being pretty responsible, but I saw a lot of other people that were just kind of just lingering to get out of the house, and you could see them just walking down aisles just clueless, like I just got to get out of my house. But if you got to do that, go fishing, go by yourself, go down to a bank and go fishing, enjoy yourself, and, do something responsibly and social distance properly. And as long as everyone continues to do that, I don't think there'll be any more closures. There might be a few counties that do recommend some closures to the director, and that's what's going to happen. Moving forward, there's going to be another emergency meeting. It's going to happen early this next week. And they're going to do exactly what they were supposed to do a couple of days ago, yesterday. Yeah. And they're going to transfer the power to the governor till May 30th. That's it. He has no power on June 1st. It goes right back to the commission. So, they're going to give him that power to do that. And he also still has to check in with the commission. He can't just go, the county wrote a letter, shut down. He's got to confirm it with the commission. And the commission still has to agree with the director. So there still is kind of checks and balances. So sure. I don't want people to think that it's, one man's got all the power just to, go closed. But I think that's what some people are concerned about. But, in this time, who knows what's right? we're in something that none of us have ever experienced before.
Uncharted waters for sure. I have, you remember Jeff Lachelle, one of our Derby high ranking. He's got a question for you. So let's pop the question up, and folks, feel free to comment any questions you want. Jeff Lachelle says, if I leave my house to go fishing alone, who will find my stockpiles of TV? Oh.
You know what? I would totally expect that question from Mr. Lachelle.
Yes.
Please put that on your Facebook tonight so I can comment privately as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the meeting is next week. And sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, put the pit bull in the middle with the TP around it as the cage.
Right. So the meeting's next week, so we'll know more. So again, follow the NorCal Guides page, and I'll pop that up again for you. That's the web address. And it's NorCal Guides and Sportsmen on Facebook as well. So Facebook's probably the best, quickest way to get your info on that kind of stuff. And we'll be updating. James is updating hourly, seems like. So, and like you said, it's such a fluid thing. There's a new piece of information coming out every 5 minutes. So,
it really is.
Assuming we get to go fishing in the future, which it sounds like we will. And my brother brought this up to me a while back. Because it's stressful for everybody. I'm tripping out because like everyone, I'm not working, and it's hard because we don't know when this is going to end. That's the hardest part for me, is just like if they said, okay, this thing will be done by July 15th, October, whatever it is, and then business kind of back to usual, normal, I could sort of deal with that. But this nebulous time frame that we don't have any clue about is the thing I think that scares me the most. But my brother said to me the other day, he goes, this will end. And I went, oh yeah, that's right. Which was, I thought that was good insight, because I've had way too much time to sit at home and think and overthink again. And so, that's something that I think bears repeating. This will end. I mean, who knows what the world's going to look like when we get through this, and who knows if anybody has any money or anything left. But this will end, and hopefully we'll be back to somewhat business as usual. So that leads me to you had. Oh wait, hang on. We got one more question here before we get off the closure. Hang on. Let's see what we got here from Ken. PG&E posted on the Facebook today, Lake Almanor is part of lakes listed for closure through June. I did not see that, Ken. I've been actually trying to stay off Facebook for my own sanity's sake. I wouldn't be surprised. And you know what? I saw Brian Ricucci, Big Daddy's Guide Services, on here, and he's he would know. He would know. So we'll see if he chimes in and gives us a little info on that. So Big Daddy, if you're still out there, let us know what you know about that. So moving on though, so a little brighter news. You've been at, like we discussed earlier, at PFMC salmon seasons, and why don't you tell us about the 2020 ocean salmon season for California? How's that looking?
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be looking any better, I would say, as long as we're all able to go fishing. The ocean's looking great. I mean, we had 37,000 Chinook 3 and 4 and 5-year-old adult salmon out in the ocean right now. Big loud car going by. So I'm out on my patio, but we have 437,000 adult salmon out in the ocean swimming around out there. We've got a bunch of jacks that are out there. Should be a really good year. We had to postpone all of April season, which was a really hard decision. The SAS, along with CDFW and National Marine Fisheries Service, had a conference call a little over 2 weeks ago, or a little over a week ago, 10 days ago, on the 1st, I believe. And we had to decide whether or not to shut down season. And we were like 3-4 days away from Monterey opening up season. And that was probably one of the hardest decisions ever to make, right? I mean, you have to make a decision that people are going to be upset about, but you have to do what's right. And I think that the main deciding factor in why all that happened was because all the ramps were closed down, so nobody could even go.
Yeah.
So, that made it a lot easier. San Mateo harbors, San Francisco harbors, Santa Cruz, Monterey, all the way down to Morro Bay was completely shut down. And so when that happened, it was a little easier. So we were able to take those impacts, though. And when we closed the April season, we were able to move them up into the KMZ to offer some additional fishing time for our friends up in the North Coast. And they were grateful, and they got a little bit better season up there. And so because we couldn't use them down here because we had a full season. But we're going to open up in Monterey, San Francisco, and Fort Bragg on May 1st. And it's going to go in Monterey season. It's going to go from May 1st to October 4th. And in San Francisco and Fort Bragg zones, it's going to go from May 1st to November 8th. So, and the crab opener is going to be on November 7th and 8th. So you might be able to, for the first time in a long time, be able to do the last weekend will be a crab salmon combo.
Yes.
As a possibility. But for all of you around here, you're going to come to the NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association dinner, which is on November 7th. So don't worry about the crab and salmon combo.
That's right.
But, and then up in the KMZ, it's going to open up June 6th, and it's going to go all the way till August 9th.
Wow.
And so they're going to have a pretty good season up there. We were able to get them a full 8-week season, almost 9-week season. So I'm really happy that we were able to do that, because the Klamath was the most constraining part of that. And when you manage fisheries, it's really interesting because you've got to go according to your listed stocks. So you've got your coastal California Chinook age 4 class that have impacts, maximum 16% impacts. You got your winter run, which are endangered fish species, and they swim south of Monterey. And so any fishing south of the Golden Gate has heavy impacts on the winter run. That's where they live generally. So we had a 20% impact on those this year. Last year was 15.7. So that gave us a little bit more fishing effort and time. But when you manage according to all of these different species and you have to move dates around of when you're going to fish, the model that Dr. Michael O'Farrell runs with the Salmon Technical Team and CDFW, the Salmon Technical Team are amazing people. They have algorithms that spit it out. And luckily we're able to have these models ourselves now in the SAS so that we can input dates and it spits out the numbers. And so we're able to work at a faster pace. And I hear, just 5-6 years ago, it was all by pad and paper and guessing. And, this is what we did 5 years ago. This is what we did 10 years ago. And hopefully this will work, and then you have to wait 24 hours for the model to compute. Now, because of technology, we're able to speed that process up a little bit, and it makes it a little easier. But we were able to give full wide open 6-month seasons in San Francisco and Fort Bragg. And so hopefully that will provide plenty of opportunity. But the interesting thing is that, KMZ not having a full season and Oregon not having a full season, they won't be able to catch as many of the sac fall fish as that they wanted to. And they won't. The commercial fleet has a pretty good season. I believe it's around 90 days in Monterey, around 96, I believe, in the San Francisco area. They have a way smaller season in the Fort Bragg, and there's no season in the commercial KMZ because their impacts, they catch so many fish, and the Klamath was the constraining factor this year. And so with the commercial fleet not being in the KMZ this year, as our sac fish come down from Coos Bay and come down through the Oregon coast and drop down, they're not going to be getting hit by the impacts of the commercial fleet and in that zone. And so they're going to get a free pass this year. And what that means is we're going to have 100,000 more fish, paper fish, but we're going to have 100,000 more fish coming into the rivers this year than we're supposed to.
Yeah, and I know that some of the ocean guys were jokingly accusing you of padding our stats for the river. And
right. But they were all saying, this is James's year. What did you do?
Yeah, how'd you manipulate us like that? But right. I know you won't toot your own horn, but I will for you. I know that the in particular, the guys up in the Eureka area were looking at maybe a 7-day or something season initially, and then you had your laptop with the formula, and you're running around, and you were doing your salesman thing, wheeling and dealing, and hey, we get you fish over here, you give us fish, blah 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 blah. And you ended up in an 8-week season, which I think is that's way more than those guys were expecting. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I got to give it up to my commercial colleagues, John Keppen and George Bradshaw, Johnny Atkinson, Jimmy Yarnell, the other part of the SAS, and there was many others, working with COSIDE, working with HASA, working with, other commercial interests there at the March meeting. There was a lot of people there, and we have become kind of a family. No, I shouldn't say kind of a family. We've become a family, and it's great. It's a great feeling, and it's great knowing that we're all looking out for each other now. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of this in the past, and that's no longer there. We have disagreements, and that's fine. We can have disagreements. But we're always like this, laughing, and then right back to this. And I can tell you that in as long as I've been working on fisheries stuff, and others that have told me that they've been working on fisheries for decades, they've never seen the commercial, charter, recreational fleet, and the inland guides working together as well as we are now. And it's an amazing feeling, and I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of all of my colleagues and my friends, and I consider them family. We talk all the time now, and it's a really great feeling to know that we're all in it for each other, and we're working hard for everyone so that we can all succeed.
No, that's so cool, and I gotta believe some of that new attitude is coming from you, because you're the guy who can talk to all the different groups, and in fact, your boy Butch Smith said you're my hero.
Hey, Butch, that is the chairman of the SAS. How are you, buddy?
And then Brian Ricucci got back to us, getting back to Almanor just for a second, since before I totally forget. Ricucci says he doesn't know exactly, he can't find anything about Almanor specifically closing, but Plumas is cracking down, and so just stay home. Don't go up there unless you live up there, and whether or not the lake's open or not, sort of a moot point at this point. So anyway, so tell us about now. You know the river stuff too, right? You got some get on that a little bit. The sack sounds like the sack system sounds pretty good. Klamath not so much, but there's a good river season there. So give us kind of a scoop on the rivers.
Yeah, so let's start in the north, since it's going to be a lot easier to discuss. For our friends up north, they're going to have a very limited season again this year. Last year they had a way better quota. I think it was in the high 7,000. So this year I think it's like 1,290 or 1,300 at the maximum, I think, is the quota this year in the river. So you got that split between the Trinity and the Klamath. Probably I think Kenny Priest would know the exact numbers. I think you might too, JD, but I think it's around 400 and something fish up in the Trinity and 700 and something down below. And so that's going to be a little bit of a season for them. They're going to be able to get, an adult and a jack. And last year, our organization, we, lobbied the commission hard to change from 2 adult salmon a day plus a jack for 3 total back down to 2, which was the request of many of our membership up there, to prolong the season so that it wasn't just a 6-week season or a 4-week season. And they really wanted to stretch it out. And we did that. And by doing that, they were able to fish a full season for the first time in a long time. They had plenty of clientele. They had plenty of opportunity. Anglers were happy. Marina, the RV parks, the boat launches, restaurants, everyone flourished from the economy from having a full season last year. This year, it's going to be a little bit different, but starting after the commission meeting, after they adopt in the state side the PFMC regulations, then we'll start working on the inland season. And I anticipate another 1-1 for the Klamath up there, and our stakeholders up there reaching out to us and looking just for a 1 adult, 1 jack for a season, because it's still going to be a very short season with only 1,200 fish.
Sure. So does that mean the valley's going to be a 2 adult limit this year?
Yeah, I would say there's no question on that. If ever there was going to be more than 2, it would be this year. The general regulations call right now, the way the ISOR reads, ISOR stands for Initial Statement of Reasoning, which gets worked on back in November. And that's how we move towards this whole process. It's a process. I had to learn it too. It's crazy. You would think you could just, like your small private sector business, you make a decision, a plan, a decision, and implement. Not so in government. You discuss for 7-8 months and discuss.
And have another meeting to discuss more.
Have another meeting, and then we make a plan. Not how I like to do it, but I've learned the process. So we worked on the initial statement of reasoning, the ISOR, and that moves forward into April now. And after PFMC, then it becomes the 4SOR. And then from there, we start working on the adoption of the inland seasons. And so for the Sac, Feather, American, everything east of the Carquinez Bridge, throughout the Delta and up the coast, we don't count the McCollum and the San Joaquin fish in the model. So I think we need to start doing that.
Was that from a lot of people? McCollum didn't contribute much back in the day before Bill Smith and crew got there?
And that's before my time, before I was there, but it used to be called the Central Valley Index, and then it moved to the Sacramento Index. I want to say that was right after the closure. So I want to say it was like 2010, 11, right in there. Maybe it was a little bit later, but it was right in there, right after three years after the closure of 8 and 9. And that's when they moved from, instead of a whole they basically said there's very few fish in the San Joaquin. Let's take this out of the model. Let's model just off the production hatcheries and then move forward. But you're right. Yeah. And then Bill Smith came into play with East Bay Mud and the McCollamy hatchery. And because East Bay Mud's the mitigator there, they gave him a lot more rain than we're allowed to at the Bureau of Reclamation mitigated and DWR mitigated hatcheries.
Sure. Yeah. They've done amazing work down there, giving a little extra rope to mess around a little bit. So, yeah. So now going on so the river, the fall salmon season in the valley looks good. The Klamath Trinity, and I just got a text from Kenny Priest. He said that number is 1,296 fish basin wide for the Klamath Trinity, with the bulk of that, I'm sure, being on the Klamath. And then so the valley looks good, and we'll see. Who knows if we'll be fishing then or not? That's a whole nother story. So what else is going on? Anything else we need to let the people know that's sort of a media?
Yeah. Let me get you to the numbers of the SAC now. Yeah. So the standard SMSY is 122,000 in the SAC, feather, and American rivers. So the way that they come up with that number is that you're looking for 100,000 natural spawning fish. We don't use the 4-letter word that starts with a W and ends in a D. And the department stops using that because we know that there aren't any. And we now call them naturally spawning fish. Mm-hmm. And but we look for 100,000 natural spawning fish in the natural spawning areas, and they're looking for 12,000 fish to go up to Coleman Hatchery, which is 6,000 pairs. They're looking for 6,000 fish at the Feather River Hatchery, the largest state hatchery, 3,000 spawning pairs, and they're looking for 4,000 fish, 2,000 spawning pairs at the Nimbus Hatchery, which is on the American. So that makes up 22,000 plus the 100,000, and that's why escapement needs to always be 122,000 in order to not deemed our fishery, according to the Magnuson-Stevenson Act, overfished. Doesn't mean that we overfished the fish. It just means that we're in a state where they're considered overfished. And a lot of us are trying to get that terminology changed because it's a big misconception. However, you're looking for 122,000 escapement. So the way the model works, everyone, is you take your abundance number that is given to us at the beginning of the year in February at Santa Rosa. This year, 437,000. And you minus out escapement, which is normally 122 at a minimum. And then they calculate 15% on top of that 122, which is the average river harvest from all the guides and all of the recreational anglers east of the Carquinez Bridge. So on a 122, you basically calculate 18,000 fish, and that's about 140,000 fish come off of that top number. And then that gives you the amount of fish that you can catch for the commercial fleet and the recreational fleet out in the ocean. So that's kind of how it works. Now this year, in the Sacramento Index for SAC, Feather, and American, National Marine Fisheries Service came out and said, we want a minimum escapement of 142,000. I think it was 141,900. Last year was 160,000 they wanted. And they can fluctuate that between 122 and 180 according to their guidance, according to what's been happening in the past few years. And since we're still coming off drought return generational fish, and because we had a low escapement number a few years ago of like 105, last year was 162, so we met escapement, and that was the whole number. So this year, 142 plus 15% is 21,000. So 161,000 fish came off the model, off the 437, and that's what the ocean has to let go by them to get up to the rivers. Then we harvest our smaller number of fish, that 15%, around that, 21,000 number, adults. We're talking adults only, no jack salmon. Jacks don't count. And then you move forward. However, because of the modeling and because of the Klamath impacts and the commercial fleet not being able to be up north and fish, they're under a restricted limited fishery this year. And because of that, they're not going to be able to catch what they should be allotted to catch. And for that reason, about another 100,000 fish are going to be coming through the system. So we should be expecting, and now these are paper fish, as JD and I always like to call them, but according to the model on paper, we should be seeing around 275,000 to 280,000 adult king salmon plus jacks. So we should be seeing, if the models are right and everything's computed right, around 300,000 fish with the jack salmon this year in our 3 rivers, which is good numbers. That's better numbers than we've had since 2013. Yeah. So I'm hoping we're right. And if we are, we might be in good shape. Yes.
Yeah, please. We're gonna need some extra fish after being quarantined all this time to kind of get our sanity back. Let's see. Kerplunk here has a question for us, and folks, sure. If you got questions for James or I, just throw them up there. Kerplunk says, seems like every year the salmon on the American return a few days later. Is anyone looking into the dates or the numbers of possibly adjusting? And I don't know that they're looking at adjusting the date. I know what he's saying, having spent my whole life on the American. And when I first started September, we used to catch kings there in August. And now they've, late October seems like when they come in, and looks like we muted you again somehow. I don't know. I'm not even touching anything. There's gremlins. But so yeah, the kings on the American definitely have come in later, and I think that's a product of we've had warming water over the years, and the fish that come in at the back end are the ones that survive. So there is the closure on the American that the upper part that starts November 1 and goes till January 1, and that one I used to be okay with. I thought, okay, let the fish spawn. But now that we don't have that many fish spawning, and now that we know what happens to the fish in the hatchery, which is bunk and get them out of there without being spawned. And we can do a whole video on that sometime too, but or a show on that. But yeah, my thought now almost is, well, maybe, if we don't value those hatchery fish, we get rid of them, why wouldn't we open up a longer fishery for them so that people at least take advantage of them? They're just going to get bonked and thrown into a truck.
Yeah, it's a great point. There's some geneticists that are saying that there's a gene that is a run timing gene, and UC Davis just did that, and they're using that science. I believe the Karuk tribe hired them for the spring Chinook salmon on the Klamath, and they hired a few scientists, and I believe one is Miller and O'Rourke, I believe, and I believe those are the two scientists that they used that found a run timing gene that determines when a fish will run up the river. And not to get into science, but that's the only thing I can answer. I know you're the expert on the American, but we have heard that before. And, if the department wanted to change season structure dates and allow that extra opportunity, they would be able to do that, but we'd have to do that in November in the eyesore. The eyesore is basically like the parameters of let's just say the lanes, right? And this is the eyesore. And then as we work through the season, we can bounce back and forth between the parameters of what we can and can't do. So, for example, it's 0 to 4 Chinook salmon every year, and it's been that for years. So they can determine the season if you can catch 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 adults per person. And so that's, that's kind of that information.
This is, I'm just thinking about how we might have in theory, on paper, a good salmon year. I've been trying to look at silver linings to all this, because as most people are doing, we're spending a lot of time at home, overthinking and stressing and thinking about things. But so I've had plenty of time to do that, and looking at the positive. I think like right now during the striper season, where none of us really are out there, or very few of us anyway, are out there beating on them. Maybe that would be the best thing for the stripers this year. And I know I talked to Dave Ing, who's a friend of mine up in Portland area, who used to work for Salmon Trout Steelhead, and now works for Salmon Steelhead Journal, and he's a guide as well. And he sent a picture of the I guess it was the Willamette there through Portland, in April, prime springer time, and there wasn't a boat to be seen. And I was thinking, if there's a silver lining, it's definitely that the fish are going to get through better this year. And I was thinking about those springers and the stripers too, coming up and going, "Hey, where is everybody?
Where is everybody?" Right?
There's gonna be a bunch of flashy things and minnows and all kinds of stuff. Right. So that the other thing that though I was thinking about today is I don't know exactly what the story is with the wardens, what they're doing, but I was thinking this might be a good time for people to be taking bad advantage of fish and wildlife in the state too. And I'm sure Chief Bess and crew over there at CDFW have thought about that, but they're in a tight spot because I'm sure they want to kind of limit personal contact with people. Yet there's probably some folks that are going, "Hey, nobody out watching us. Let's go, do bad things," which is unfortunate. People always find some way to take advantage of a situation, but that's just hopefully that's not going too much. But
yeah, hopefully not. But there's always bad apples that are out there, so that's why we gotta, that's why we gotta support our wardens and make sure that they're protecting our resources so that our kids have opportunities, because there are those people that don't like to follow laws.
There are those. So, well, what else? The organization, NorCal Guides and Sportsmen, we are on our, what is this, our fourth year?
Yeah, our fourth elected year.
Okay. Oh, you know what? Chief Bess is watching, and
nice. Hey, Chief.
He said we're out there. Okay, well, that's good. I knew they had a plan. I knew they weren't just letting things go willy-nilly. I just hope people respect our resources when times are funky. But
right.
So that's good to know. So yeah, we're on our fourth year as pres and vice pres of this organization. Give us a little stat on what's our memberships in the many thousands now, and it was at 2 paid or something when you took over.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I think the only people when the old leadership asked me to take over in late 2016, it was 2 people. It was the president and the treasurer were the only 2 people that were paying their dues and keeping the organization alive, which is great, because after the closure, our organization took a huge hit, and we were predominantly a salmon steelhead organization. And so, we fell apart, and, that's, people got tired of fighting and working and, fighting for the fisheries. So, thanks to all of them for keeping it alive, at least doing the taxes and keeping everything, keeping a bank account and keeping us rolling. And they turned it over to us, and we're very honored and proud. And they're currently still members, and we still got a lot of the old guard that we talk to all the time. And hopefully someday somebody's going to be willing to take over for us.
One of the things I think that's really this regime has changed is it used to be that fishing groups couldn't get anything done because we hated each other. Right. The fly guy hated the bass guy, who hated the bait guy, who hated the salmon guy. It was just like we're all and meanwhile behind us, to the water agencies and all the people that are killing our fisheries are sneaking in the back door while we're having these petty arguments. So it's really one of the things that I'm most proud of that we've been able to accomplish is we got guys like John Sherman, who's the Sims rep and also a very big fly guy. Maury Hatch. We have all these fly guys. We get the bass guys. We got the commercial salmon guys. The commercial salmon guys and the sport salmon guys always hated each other because They're always fighting, it's, and ultimately it comes down to, we really all want the same thing. I mean, there's variations on that theme, but we all want the same thing, which is generally more fish. And so we've been able to include everybody, and that's been such a great thing, because once you get talking to these people that who formerly were your so-called enemies, you go, oh, this guy's just like us. I mean, he's got a family, he's just trying to do his best. He's trying to, catch fish out on the ocean to sell to the market. I don't have anything against him. And then you talk, and they're like, oh, you're just a guy in the river trying to catch a salmon for your feed your family. And so it's been really, really cool to see that. And I think that's why this is going to be successful going forward for sure.
No, I agree with you 100%, JD. Like you said, I think that everybody has opinions, and, fishermen, whether you're commercial, charter, or a guide, we have strong opinions. And
yes, we do.
None of us think that we're good fishermen or that we're good at what we do. I would say that there are so many strong personalities in the fishing world. I mean, even when I was a tournament bass angler when I was young, all the way through just being a sportsman, and then being a part-time guide, and then being a full-time guide. I've seen it from so many different dynamics. And, my friends are now running charter boats that I grew up with, that we grew up around the reservoir flipping jigs for bass, and they're running charter boats now. They're running commercial boats. And, so I've got friends in all sides of the industry. And, we got to, just like you said, we got to stop doing this and start doing more of this. And we're already doing it. And we have been doing it for a couple of years now. And it's getting better and better and better. And as long as I think that works with just an open mind, if anyone's watching out there, open your mind to new ideas. Open your mind to saying, okay, I didn't agree with that, but let me listen to why you think that that's a valid argument. And, I've learned so much from the charter fishermen. I've learned so much from recreational ocean guys. I've learned so much from commercial guys. And they've learned a lot from me. And, one of the things that they always were saying was, a lot of people were shocked about a river guide being on the PFMC. And, what's he doing here? A lot of people have that guard up, and now they don't, because they know that I'm in it for the right reasons. Right. I'm in it for everyone. And I'm also bringing a lot of information that a lot of people didn't know, because I live here. I live on the spawning grounds. Right. I've got the two largest rivers 6 miles in each direction from my house. I live dead smack in the middle, and they're on both sides of me. And so I know what happens here. I know what happens with migration with the babies. I know what happens with water. I know what happens with adults returning. I know what happens with the water when they're here. And as you do when you're guiding here every single day, and that's one of the things we always tell the department is, there's nobody in this state that has more time on the water than us. It's our office. That's where we work. That's where we live practically. So, our information should be held to a higher standard than just speculation.
Right. So it's, I think what's been really interesting to me, being part of this process, is talking, kind of reverting back to what you're just saying, talking to some of the ocean guys, and kind of going back and forth, and you learn so much. I mean, sounded like a lot of the guys I talked to didn't really understand what was going on up here, and then we don't understand what's going on down there. So it's been a really great process and I think I brought that up to you a while back, that at some point we're going to have to do some trade trips. River guys will go down there and fish on their boats, have them come up, and it just, the more we get together and understand each other, it's just, it's going to be an unstoppable force, which is great.
You made that suggestion before, JD, and we've got to do that. I think that's a great thing to do. Anticipate, last year we took out 24 legislation people from the state capitol and their aides, and took them fishing, and they learned so much. They loved it. They want to do it again. It's the same thing, we need to do that with our own industry. We need to work together. We need to go out with them and just absorb their knowledge for a day. And they need to come up here and we need to show them what's going on and show them our knowledge. And, if we're together, united, we're unstoppable as an industry. If we get divisive and start doing the he said, she said, and pointing fingers at each other, we're destroyed. We're done.
Quickly, too.
People can control you when you're separated and when you're individuals, but you can't be controlled when you're a mass force and a mass voice.
Yep, and it's turning into a love fest with all the user groups with us, so it's been great. So I'll give the web address here again. We are always looking for new members. Give them the spiel on what it costs to be a guide member, regular member, all that, and what the gist of that.
Yeah, if you guys want to sign up for NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association, we're representing a little over 50% of all of the licensed guides right now in the state of California, over 600. And it's $50 a year to be a guide member. The membership goes from January to December, and we're discussing moving that to a 365, just like the fishing license bill that's out there. And looking to move our membership to when you sign up, the day you sign up, it goes for one continuous year. But currently it goes calendar year, just like your fishing license. But it's $50. If you want to be a business member, if you're a marina, a boat, or a guide service, and you want to be on our website and listed as a business member with a hyperlink to your business, it's $100 a year. Lifetime members are $500, and you're in for life. If you're a lifetime business member, you want to be on the website forever and no dues forever, it's $1,000. It's a pretty low fee for supporting such a great organization for working towards conservation and the sustainability. But just for you sportsman members out there, we have more of you than anything, over 4,000. And it's $20. It's $20 to join the organization. I mean, it's just a very small fee to get involved, and you can help with, we've got 9 different logos showing our diversity, from our salmon, our striper, our steelhead, our trout, our sturgeon logos. We've got all of those going on so that you can choose different stickers and how you're, representing part of the organization. We've also got the hunting side. We've got a lot of hunters. We're engaging on a lot of things and working with our partner NGOs and on the hunting side and dabbling into the waterfowl stuff. And a lot of us are waterfowl guides. So we've got the mallard and the speckle belly logos, as well as we've got the deer logo for our deer hunters up there, and a lot of great things. We're just really proud of how many people are coming together and being united under our organization. We always say the BS stops at the door. When you want to talk about the organization, you want to come to the meetings that we have. Obviously, everything's been canceled to COVID, but we've lost 3 or 4 meetings already this year.
On our birthday.
Right. When you come and our derby, but when you come to the meetings, that's the first thing we say every time is, leave the BS out on the door. Together we're in here united. We're working. We're going to respect everyone's views, whether you agree or disagree. And we're going to have an open discussion, and we're going to work as an organization formally to trying to make positive change for everyone so that we have it better for our kids and our grandkids.